Thank you, Acting Speaker. And I will refer to the member for Hastings' contribution just then on a couple of points. Something different from the following debates, almost guaranteed. And the fact that the member for Hastings claims he didn't make any money out of that movie is outrageous, absolutely outrageous claim. It is an absolute classic. And I will state this on permanent record for Hansard, that movie made me and my family in Swan Hill take up ballroom dancing as a family. Oh, and can we still twinkle toes our way around a dance floor now? So thank you. On another thing, the member for Hastings was talking about home ownership and how aspiring it is. And I don't disagree. I absolutely don't disagree. But when the government's on the title, and obviously on this side of the House, we don't agree that the government should be on the title to your property. In my mind, and until very recently, until last year, and maybe this is just an illustration of being a woman in the 21st century, I don't know, but my husband wasn't even on titles to an investment property that I have, which is on the long-term rental list, has been providing a home for a teacher to live. In fact, my stepdaughter's Year 10 teacher, and I'll pause there and say happy birthday to Scarlett, it's her 16th birthday today, but it has been providing a house for him who moved to the district to teach. So having the government on the title to your own home isn't my definition of owning your own home. But let's talk about some of the other facets of this bill. And while it aims to address housing affordability in this shared equity scheme, which does make me a little nervous, I thought during doing a little bit of research on this bill, Acting Speaker, I thought I would ask AI some questions. Now, I don't normally ever use AI because I've seen the Terminator movies and it makes me very, very nervous. However, I thought I'd put into the machine issues with the cause of the housing crisis, and some of the things that it pointed out were, and it's pulled up several articles referring to that. It pulled up Labor's track record on housing. While the Help to Buy scheme presents itself as a solution, it's essential to reflect on the historical approach to housing from the Labor government. The demolition of public housing, which we hear about often and have earlier today. Excessive taxation. Now, this is something, Acting Speaker, that, again, as the member for Kew stated, I feel like we talk about every single day in this place. Every single week I seem to be on my feet explaining to those on the other side that if you can't tax your way out of debt, and you certainly can't expect to add taxes on top of taxes on top of taxes to the point where when you purchase a new home in Victoria now, 40% of the cost of that property is tax, that in no way, Sols, is going to contribute to solving a housing crisis. Not for those to own their own homes, and certainly not to incentivise landlords and investors to buy homes to put on the long-term rental market. It simply won't happen. And of course, the other thing that spat out was economic mismanagement and the policy settings that have led to this housing crisis. Now, I've been listening to this debate throughout the day and contributions from members that have spoken on this bill. And member for Mordialloc, I heard him say something that made me jot something down, and he said those on the other side are all knockers and blockers of affordable housing. And I just wanted to point something out, and actually the Minister for Health reminded me of this yesterday when the current Minister for Health was the Minister for Regional Development. That was during my time on council, where we had come up with back then it was an audacious plan for council to start building houses, which came about from a conversation between myself and the current CEO sitting at a conference in Canberra, and we just said, you know what, the market's failed in the town of Robinvale, town of 3,000 people, so the census would have you believe. We should just start building houses. And it was that principle of saying yes first and then figuring out how to do it. Regional Development gave us the seed funding to start building houses on a plot of land that you wouldn't have ever thought you could build townhouses on. It was an old road reserve that we managed to get titles to. And again, in those days, it was an audacious plan. It wasn't actually that long ago. And 8 houses doesn't sound like a lot. But in a town like Robinvale, which is an hour and a half from Swan Hill, an hour from Mildura, with no operating tradies that live in there's plumbers, but because of the huge farming district, trying to get tradies is near impossible. But to finally have those 8 homes, those 8 3-bedroom homes, now not only built, but having purchased via a private treaty with council. So council have actually come in. They're not on the title though, they haven't assisted, they've just built these homes and then put them on the market, not through auction, but through private treaty. And the Minister for Regional Development at the time, the now Minister for Health, reminded me yesterday of how a little bit of thinking outside of the box can actually help contribute. And she came to turn the sod with myself and the current Mayor, Bill Moore, on that day. And it's not that I forgot about it. I did forget to mention it. She did remind me of that yesterday. So, and that was one of those, I guess it's an example of how thinking outside of the box we live in can sometimes offer a solution. And living in those homes now, we have a pharmacist who's moved to the district. We have a doctor, a GP who has bought one of those homes. We've had a family return to the district and buy a business. It's been very, very successful. But look, again, Acting Speaker, I talk about housing, the housing crisis, what causes it, and the bleedingly obvious solutions to incentivise housing growth in this state from the private sector. Because let's be honest, the government's never going to be, it's been proven, that 80,000 homes a year is a ridiculous number. It's a ridiculous notion that's already been pegged back. We know that. But to disincentivise the private sector, and that's where that would be the solution, to incentivise the private sector to build homes, to put them on the long-term rental market instead of the short-stay market. Let's face it, investors are putting their homes on the short-stay market because of how hard it has become to have homes on the long-term rental market. So I feel like in this place we are constantly talking about this, and still we have a bill before us today that, as every member on this side has pointed out, when the Liberals and Nationals win the federal election and this no longer goes ahead, we could have been debating things like getting bail reform, getting machetes onto the prohibited weapons list, things that are much more important to Victorians now, rather than a scheme that may not exist come the end of this financial year, much less by the end of April, let's say. So the member for Brighton, of course, has put up a reasoned amendment with all of that in mind. But again, we will not be opposing it. It'd be nice to think that we could get some support on the reasoned amendment, but that would be a waste of an entire day, having sat here and debated this all day, that may not even come to fruition in the end, Acting Speaker. But again, I'm more than happy to get up and talk about housing, the housing crisis, the blatantly obvious reasons for a housing crisis, and some common sense solutions to help solve it, because we do that every single day in this place.